Well, what a more wonderful topic to study these days, oui, than French cooking, oui? It's wonderful. So if you go ahead and turn, we have a listening exercise to do today. We're going to listen to an interview and between this person who makes bread for the NASA space program, and it's a boulanger pour l'espace. Today we're going to listen about the bread maker for space. But let's get you introduced here. Chapitre 8. We slowed down and decided not to try to finish this chapter before Christmas, but to go ahead and review for the final exams. And so voilà, nous sommes ici, chapitre 8. Oui, la cuisine française. We're going to be learning some interesting things about French cooking in that the different provinces are famous for specialties. And we're going to learn a few of those specialties. And there is a little quiz scheduled for Wednesday, but it's all on vocabulary. And I'm going to be telling you today and tomorrow, especially tomorrow, what to be looking for. Some cooking terms, all vocabulary. And for instance, where do we find Dijon mustard? Oui? And which province eats a lot of sauerkraut, choucroute? Oui? We're going to be studying about the different provinces. If you have any guesses on these things, like which one of the provinces would you think would be eating a lot of sauerkraut? One that's located very near a European neighbor. If you have any guesses on that, we'll give you some extra credit points if you can guess correctly. Choucroute. Right? So as we're going through, we're going to be studying the French cooking and the specialty items from different regions of France. Here's our verse here. Ésaïe 53:6. Nous étions tous ronds comme des brebis, chacun suivait sa propre voie, et l'Éternel a frappé pour l'iniquité de nous tous. We were all wandering like sheep, each one following his own way, right? His own will, his own way. And the Eternal One has laid upon him. Now, frappé, if you study, when we're studying cooking, frappé means to beat. Frapper les œufs means to beat the eggs. And notice how it's here. Not only has the eternal Heavenly Father laid on the Lord Jesus the iniquity of us all, but he has laid it very heavily on him. A frappé. Ouais? Et l'Éternel l'a frappé pour l'iniquité de nous tous. So we're going to be listening in just a moment to the recording of the francophone person who's speaking the French. You can follow through with this verse. And we're studying also, notice in the yellow, we're studying the imperfect tense. Imperfect tense describes what was going on in the past. In English, it's usually an ing verb. Oui. He was singing. I was painting the house when the phone rang, oui? Or something like that. But the ing form is the imperfect form. So we're going to be looking at that some more. All right? Excellent. The homework for tonight is just to answer the questions that are listed on page 121 concerning the écoute, ouais, the listening exercise today. And it says, just numbers 1 through 11, can you correctly match these two columns? If you can, then you have understood the oral text. Well, we're going to go through those together, and as time permits, we'll do the homework together, and you won't have any homework to do tonight. Ah, voilà. Okay? So, les devoirs pour ce soir. Au livre des textes à la page 121, comprenez-vous numéro 1 à 11. Okay? So, what is the imperfect tense? It describes continuing action in the past. All right? Just to give you an introduction, a little review here, introduction to what we're looking at. And how do we use it? To describe continuing action in the past, actions that were in progress when something else happened. It's also used to describe habitual or repeated actions that people have performed in the past. Like we used to go to the Riviera every summer, or I used to go to grandma's and grandpa's every summer for 2 weeks and stay with them, you know. Or every summer we did this, or every winter we went skiing. And you would use the imparfait to describe these habitual or repeated actions. Then conditions and circumstances that surround an action or event. So it's like a narration. This was taking place, the sky was blue, this and that and the other. And so conditions and circumstances that surround an action or event would be described in the imperfect, setting up the background of a story. Then also we use the imperfect, or the imparfait, to describe someone's physical, emotional, or mental state in the past. She was glad when we came. He was sad that she couldn't attend the reunion. So those physical, emotional, or mental state in the past, we use the imparfait to describe these situations. Then what about the passé composé? You may be asking, okay, the passé composé, who can tell me how we form that, first of all? We're getting some extra credit points down here. So who's going to be the first one to press the button and explain, first of all, how do we form the passé composé for most verbs? Most regular verbs. Let's see, Matt. It's a two-part verb, isn't it? Bonjour. How do I form the passé composé, Matt?
Bonjour.
Hi.
You have an auxiliary verb to go before the main verb.
Right. The past participle. Good. And those auxiliary verbs, for the most part, we use which verb for this, for most verbs?
Avoir.
Very good, Matt. Thank you for helping us review these things. Merci bien. Okay? Now, do I have a volunteer to tell me there are Dr. Mrs. Vandertramp verbs? Which auxiliary do I use for those? Anyone to volunteer for an extra credit? Oh, good. We've got Jeffrey and Aaron. We're going to go to Jeffrey first. His name came up first. Bonjour.
You use être with the Dr. and Mrs. Vandertramp verb.
Very good, Jeffrey. Merci bien. That's right. So we have the passé composé. That's how we form it. Avoir or être plus a past participle. Now we can go back to reviewing all the way back to how do we form a past participle of regular ER verbs. Let's do that for an extra credit point. Let's take a regular ER verb, regarder. How do I make a past participle out of that? Good. Scott from Cortland. Bonjour.
Bonjour. Remove the R and put an accent aigu over the E.
Very good. So we end up with something that sounds the same, but is spelled like this. Very good. Merci, Scott. Exactement. So regardez, regular ER verbs, you can take off the R and put an accent aigu over the E, and then you say, he looked when? Il a regardé. Il a regardé. He looked. Okay, excellent. Then we have, let's say, regular IR verbs, like finir. What do we do to those? Monsieur Aaron, bonjour.
Drop the R.
Very good, c'est tout, hein? That's it. So finir devient fini. Merci bien, Aaron. So just take off the R, and there you have your past participle. So he finished. Il a fini. What? Exactement. Il a fini. Très bien. All right, then we have, let's look at ou to answer. Répondre, an RE verb. What do we do to those to make the past participle? Jeffrey, bonjour.
Bonjour. You take off the RE and add a U.
Very good. So it becomes répondu. Excellent. Très bien. Merci, Jeffrey. So he answered. Il a répondu. Good. Now, in this case, with all of these verbs were all regular verbs. Right? Regular ERs, IRs, and REs. Then, of course, we have irregulars, and you have to remember what those are. Like, for instance, être and avoir. Être and avoir. And then we have the Dr. and Mrs. Vandertramps and so on. So you have to work with those. Now, when do we use the passé composé? We use the passé composé to describe something that was completed, to answer the question, what happened, ed, or what did someone do, okay? So it is the completed past action that interrupts all this imparfait stuff going on. So we have imparfait here, imparfait ici, continuer, continuer. Oui, tout à coup, all of a sudden, quelque chose se passait, right? Se passait. So something happens all of a sudden to interrupt this. The telephone rings is what my favorite one is. He was reading the newspaper. Il lisait le journal quand la téléphone a sonné. The telephone rang, and that stopped the action, or interrupted what someone else was doing. So the imperfect is the ing, what someone was doing, and the passé composé is the ed, what happened. What was happening? What happened? So that's the difference. And really, it's just according to how you want to describe things. It's up to you. It's up to you. And so we will look again. Voici la différence entre les deux. Here's the difference between the two. Imparfait, passé composé. Imparfait just continues. Passé composé interrupts or completes. What? C'est beau ça, oui? Another example is this little fella in the car. I always like to show him. Oui, allez, allez, allez. So he's going, 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 and all of a sudden he stops. Right? So he's supposed to come in and go, so we'll just pretend like he came in and went, and he stops. Okay? So allez, allez, allez. He's going, 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 going. Il a arrêté. He stops. He stopped. He was going. Il allait, 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 allait. Il a arrêté. He stopped. Okay, just to get us there and to remind us here. Now, for the à l'écoute, if you open your textbook, the recording today will begin with reading through the verse, our new verse that's found on page 119, 119. And then for the l'écoute, for the listening, we have to look at some vocabulary there on page 120. So if you want to look at page 120, and notice that we have some vocabulary there before we go to listen. And that begins with un pain de ration, which is a special high nutrition bread that they give to soldiers. It's ration bread. Le CNES, that's the name of the French space agency. They call it CNES for short, like we call ours NASA. They call it CNES, Centre National d'Études Spatiales. You know, have you ever wondered why the government always abbreviates everything? Because the names are so blessedly long. And it's just to save on the voice box, I guess. And so, voilà. So, CNES, same as NASA. Mettre au point, oui, is to develop or to perfect a product, to bring to a point, means to perfect a product. Convenir aux normes means to meet regulations, oui, to conform to norms or to meet regulations. Ne comporte pas de miettes. Reading from our book here, it means it doesn't have any crumbs. La pesanteur is weightlessness. La pesanteur, weightlessness. Les bronches, oui, that's part of your lungs. Bronchial tubes, as you might guess. Une recette is a recipe. Livrer means to reveal. Là-dessus means on that subject. Là-dessus, on that subject. Parvenir à is to manage to or to succeed in. A retenu le produit has selected the product. A retenu le produit has selected the product. La course spatiale, the space race. Une course croisière, oui, is a long-distance yacht race. Now, this is very interesting because in this next semester, starting with Chapter 9, I have included in the spring semester some crossword puzzles for you. And we'll be doing those for some extra points here and there, you know, for competitions and things, and to help you with your vocab. But they are called, crossword puzzles are called mots croisés, crossed words. Now notice this. Une course croisière, a crossed course. Now why would that have to do with yachting? Does anyone know anything about yachting and yacht races that would reveal why they use this type of a description to name these races? Anybody ever watch any of the yachting races? You know, they have to, I don't see any hands up, so maybe that's, you know, sure, in my spare time, I just watch the yachting races. Well, what they do is they have to tack back and forth to catch the wind, and so their course is not straight on any target. They have to cross back and forth. So I thought this was very interesting how the name for a yachting race, you know, a long-distance yacht race is a crossed course. Fier is proud, oui, proud. La Voie lactée is the Milky Way. Huh, interesting. Talking about our verses, each sheep has gone its own way, sa propre voie, its own way. Well, this is the Milky Way, la Voie lactée, very literal. Confit is preserved. And encanade à la cuillère is duck stew. It's duck for the spoon, so it's duck stew. And un gagaillou is a vegetable casserole or a fruit casserole. So those are the vocab. And so if you look down there, the translation, this Francois Canteneau you're going to be listening to is a descendant of a long line of millers, people who grind flour from the French province of Franche-Comté. And he was born, as he puts it, with his feet in the flour. So, you know, he could be nothing else than a baker, right? And with ancestors like this, it would have been difficult not to become a baker, he says. And this is just what he is. He's the head of his corporation. The corporation is called Epigrille, with its headquarters in the Côte d'Or, or of Burgundy. He's not just an ordinary baker. He's the baker of outer space because he supplies the cosmonauts of Soyuz as well as the astronauts of our Discovery program and the French astronauts with bread for their missions. So we begin with Le Boulanger de l'Espace, and it's from an article from La Cuisine pendant la Révolution, oui, from the Champs-Élysées magazine, voilà. And it begins with a gentleman describing who François Cantonneau is. Il est le descendant d'une longue dynastie de meuniers franc-comtois. Oui. So he comes from a long line of millers from the French province of Franche-Comté. And comme il le dit lui-même, as he says himself, he was born les pieds dans la farine, feet in the flour. Difficile avec de tels antecedents, meaning ancestors. It's difficult with ancestors like this to not become a baker. C'est bien ce qu'il est à la tête de la société épigrile installée en Côte d'Or. So it's talking about him being the head of this company that is called Epigrill, and it's established in the Côte d'Or. So we'll begin and see if we can pick up with this interview. And it should begin right here with Georges Long, okay?
5. 4 balles de suite permettent au frappeur de recevoir un but sur balle.
Chapitre 8. La cuisine française. Page 119. Ésaïe 53, 6. Nous étions tous errants comme des brebis. Chacun suivait sa propre voie, et l'Éternel l'a frappé pour l'iniquité de nous tous. Ésaïe 53, 6.
Page 120. À l'écoute. Le boulanger de l'espace.
François Cantonneau est le descendant d'une longue dynastie de meuniers franc-comtois. Comme il le dit lui-même, il est né les pieds dans la farine. Difficile avec de tels antécédents de ne pas devenir boulanger. C'est bien ce qu'il est, à la tête de sa société, Epigrill, installée en Côte d'Or. Pourtant, il n'est pas un boulanger ordinaire. C'est le moins que l'on puisse dire. Il est le boulanger de l'espace. C'est lui, en effet, qui fournit les cosmonautes de Soyouz aussi bien que les astronautes de Discovery et les spationautes français qui les accompagnent au hasard des missions.
Monsieur François Cantonneau, tout a débuté en 1981 lorsque l'armée de terre vous demande de faire un pain plus moderne, un pain de ration. Pour quelles raisons s'est-on adressé à vous au départ?
Nous étions en contact déjà avec l'armée de terre pour un autre produit et immédiatement la question s'est posée par le CNES. Le CNES demandait à l'armée française: pouvez-vous nous organiser, trouver des fournisseurs de haut niveau pour un repas français de l'espace? Et alors, nous, aimant bien la compétition et la recherche, nous nous sommes tout de suite mis à travailler et nous avons pu mettre au point un produit qui convienne aux normes qui étaient imposées par le CNES.
Mais qu'est-ce qu'on vous demandait de particulier?
Premièrement, que le pain, il s'agissait de pain, qu'il se conserve.
Oui.
Deuxièmement, qu'il résiste aux très fortes vibrations. Troisièmement, qu'il ne comporte pas de miettes, puisqu'il devait être en milieu, en apesanteur, on dit pour l'espace. Et donc, il ne devait pas y avoir de miettes qui risquent de rentrer dans les bronches des cosmonautes et ne pas aussi risquer de perturber les ordinateurs de bord.
Alors, vous avez une recette, un secret pour faire ce genre de pain, monsieur Cantonneau?
Tout à fait.
Vous n'allez pas le livrer, là, j'en suis certain.
Certainement pas.
Mais dites-moi, la compétition a été dure? Vous étiez sur les rangs avec d'autres candidats?
Écoutez, je ne peux pas vous répondre objectivement là-dessus. Je ne sais pas s'il y a eu vraiment d'autres candidats, mais elle a été dure par rapport à nous-mêmes. C'est-à-dire que si nous n'étions pas parvenus à le mettre au point, je crois qu'il n'y aurait pas eu, en tout cas sous cette forme-là, du pain de l'espace.
Alors si je résume, d'abord l'armée de terre en 1981, ensuite le Centre national d'études spatiales, et puis après ce sont les étrangers qui sont venus à vous.
Eh bien, En fait, le Centre national d'études spatiales travaillait pour le premier vol franco-soviétique de 82, où Jean-Loup Chrétien, déjà à cette époque-là, partait avec les soviétiques.
Donc ça, c'était pour la Russie, mais les
Oui, et alors
Américains...
ensuite, eh bien, tout simplement, ça s'est passé d'homme à homme. Devant le succès de l'opération, Patrick Baudry, qui accompagnait Jean-Loup Chrétien quand il est venu à Échenon après leur vol en 82, m'a dit, mais si je pars avec les Américains, puis-je présenter ce produit à la NASA?
Et alors?
Et la NASA a retenu le produit sous l'instigation de Patrick Baudry, mais il était nécessaire que la NASA donne son agrément, elle l'a donné. Je dois dire que ça devient de plus en plus important. La première fois, on avait fourni 7 pains pour faire un repas français de l'espace, et puis cette fois-ci, Jean-Loup Chrétien, avec les cosmonautes soviétiques, emmène 1200 pains.
Avez-vous le sentiment que vous participez à la course spatiale mondiale avec les produits gastronomiques français?
Oh, pourquoi pas? Pourquoi pas, c'est très intéressant, et on espère bien qu'au niveau français, la navette Hermès sera dotée de pain de notre société, de la société Épigris.
Dites-moi, est-ce que les astronautes vous ont confié que le pain que vous leur fournissez était aussi bon qu'un pain ordinaire?
Ah, écoutez, c'est pas comme ça qu'ils ont réagi. Je peux vous dire qu'ils étaient complètement étonnés. Ils n'en revenaient pas que d'avoir d'un pain. Et je peux vous dire que nous avons eu dans les mains des produits et des cosmonautes américains et des cosmonautes soviétiques. Les nôtres sont vraiment pour nous autres Français, représentent vraiment un produit qui convient bien.
Est-ce que vous avez le sentiment qu'un jour ou l'autre, on pourra aussi consommer ce genre de pain dans d'autres endroits, pas nécessairement à bord d'une navette spatiale?
Alors écoutez, nous fournissons depuis longtemps, nous sommes, en plus de notre production complètement industrielle, nous fournissons ces pains pour des opérations spéciales dans l'Himalaya, dans un certain nombre d'expéditions pour les courses croisières, etc.
Eh bien, monsieur Cantenot, je vous remercie. Je suis fier d'être français quand j'apprends de votre bouche que notre pain fait le tour du monde et part maintenant dans la Voie lactée.
Whew. All right, let's go back now and let's look at our questions for the homework on page 121. And let's see, it says in 1981, the French army asked Epigrille to prepare what? Let's go back and see. Ah, good, we have some volunteers. Jeffrey from Cortland.
French meal for space.
Right, French bread for space, exactement. So that would be letter F. Wait. Now, I know that the book says, well, I know the book says J, but it's actually switched. The questions are switched there. They asked him in 1981 to make a bread right here. So those of you watching that have the teacher's manual, if you'll fix number 1 and 2, it's been switched. The answers are mixed up. But anyway, here's what they asked. Un pain plus moderne. Which is really which one? Which answer?
F.
Right, there you go. Letter F. So that's number 1 question. In 1981, the French army asked Epigrille to prepare a more modern bread, un pain plus moderne. Okay, excellent, très bien. Okay, merci bien. And for number 2, it says, Kness asked the army, let's go here and see. Le Kness demandait à l'armée française, pouvez-vous nous organiser, trouver des fournisseurs de haut niveau pour un repas français de l'espace? So they're asking them what? Un repas français de l'espace. Jeffrey, bonjour.
J.
Right, very good. Can you say that for me? Un repas.
Le repas français
Wait, go ahead.
de l'espace.
Good job, Jeffrey. Thank you. Exactement. Merci bien. So, un repas français de l'espace. So, they're asking for a French meal for space. Okay, let's look at the next question here. See if we can find it on this slide. The first requirement to be imposed on the space bread was that it would be, premièrement, il s'agissait de ce pain qui se conserve. Qui se conserve. Okay, so it has to be what, Aaron?
A.
Very good.
Would not spoil.
Excellent. It would not spoil. Letter A. It would be conserved, right? Preserved, so to speak. Has to taste good too. Can you imagine a bread that oh well, we have to talk about. I'm giving away the other answers before we get there. Let's look at the next one. The second requirement, deuxièmement. Notice how they use the ordinal number deuxième, and then put ment on it, and it means secondly. Secondly, qui résiste très aux très fortes vibrations. Okay? So what do we have there, Caitlin?
Is it B?
It's, we've got some vibration.
Oh, wait a minute. I got it. It's letter G.
There you go. There you go. I knew if you had the time, if I gave you enough time, you would find it. And you did it very quickly. Good. So, secondly, deuxièmement, qui résiste très aux très fortes vibrations. So it has to be able to resist, would not be affected by vibrations. Letter G. Good. All right, then we have the third reason, the third requirement, number 5, troisièmement, thirdly, qu'il ne comporte pas de miettes. Okay, so what would that be? Matt from Sterling, bonjour.
Bonjour. B.
Right, very good. Number 5 is B, that it would have no crumbs. Oui. Yes, because, you know, it can cause some problems. What was the problem that let's see what he says here about those crumbs. Oui. Not that it's one of our questions, but il ne devait pas y avoir de miettes qui risquaient de rentrer dans les branches des cosmonautes. Oui. Et aussi, ne pas aussi risquer de perturber les ordinateurs du bord. Anybody want to offer your insights on this? Why does it have to be without crumbs? Right? Have no crumbs. Jeffrey? Oui?
Je ne sais pas.
Okay. Well, that's good. See, we got the branche of the cosmonaut. And we have ordinateur, but that wasn't one of our questions, so that's fine. That's good. We'll talk about that some more. You know, if you think about it, why don't they want crumbs floating around in the space capsule? You know, inside these navettes spatiales, right? Shuttles, space shuttles, the Hermes, is because it gets into the lungs, it could, and also because it would disturb the computers on board, you know, perturber les ordinateurs. All right, well, you go in and say, will Epigros share its recipe with other bakers? Are you going to give us your secret? And he says, what? Jeffrey, bonjour.
Certainly not.
Right, certainly not. So the best answer there would be jamais de la vie, never on your life. You're right, very good. All right, we'll look at these some more tomorrow and talk about them tomorrow. And that's really the homework. So if you go back through, of course, the dialogue is listed in the front of your workbook, so you can actually go through and find those answers there. And it's been so good to be back with you. And you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow. À demain.